Thanks, sir.
Have a seat.
Hello again, everyone. You've become so much fewer in number. We must have crushed you with
the alcohol issue was very hard hitting, honestly. Unfortunately. I like the shirt.
Thanks, man.
And the jacket.
The jewelry is pretty slick, too.
When you start getting heavier, you're like, man, I still want to look good, but I'm fat. So what do? Camo, right? You can't tell where the fat is because it's hidden, right?
It's a good
tactical.
job.
I'm also fascinated by your YouTube studio.
Nice, man.
Actually, can we get a picture of the YouTube studio? All right, so we have a very nice chair.
That's some nice camo, too.
And those candles.
It's literally like this tall. It's like 7 feet tall
Yeah,
chair.
the chair?
Yeah.
Where'd you get it?
I can't tell you. I don't want you to dilute my brand. It's not even that much money. Like, if you're stylish and you like furniture, I'm sure you can find it, right?
And how'd you come up with the ideas of the candles?
Dude, so
they're not even straight. They're
yeah. So I just was like, man, I want to put something really cool looking in the like entrance to my place. So I had like a pedestal, and then I got this thing off eBay, like a giant statue, right? And I'm like, this looks awesome, right? It's like a couple grand or something. And I got it, and it was just small. Like, I thought that thing would be like human-sized, right? Because that's what it looked like in the picture. And so I'm like, all right, I'll just put it on a pedestal, get it high enough. And then a drunk girl knocked it over. And then that broke the candle thing, so they just tilt the wrong way now. You can't light them anymore because it drops wax on the floor. And I tried to like wedge a piece of metal in there to like fix it, but so now I'm just like, I can't, like, what can I do with it? I can't put it back on the pedestal. People knock it over again, and
it looks stylish.
Yeah. So
yeah. Anyway, yeah, I mentioned the crazy prediction you had.
Yeah.
Exactly 1 year from now. I remember I was seeing your video, and I was like, this is crazy. Like, Bitcoin was 6,000 and 20K by Christmas. Like, what are the chances?
I can tell you how I arrived at that prediction, right? So Bitcoin tended to like operate in tripling, right? So there's these certain frequencies that the Bitcoin price does that it keeps reiterating. So in the bull run, we would go up 100%, drop 40. We'd go up 100%, drop 40, up 100%, drop 40. And then if you assume that like the nature of that was going to change slightly and that we were getting people with so much more money because of Wall Street and the CME listing, that you're like, well, maybe we triple or triple, which gave you like a 9x, and like 20K inverted by 9x was what the price was at the time. It was a good round number, and I was happy to stick with that, and it hit, right?
And then it hit, and then a couple months later, it has crashed, and you go on a live stream with Ivan on Tech.
Yeah.
And you're remarkably honest in your what should I say, sadness.
Yeah.
Tell us how this last like 10, 11 months has been for you, like on a personal, emotional level. Does it hit you hard, this brutal downtrend we've seen?
So when you spend every day, all day, talking crap about every other altcoin and saying everything good you can about Bitcoin and, you know, telling everyone to go long and like, and then it hits your target and you're like, yes, this is awesome, we did it. And then everyone sold the news and the price just immediately dumped from that moment forward. Like everyone thought there's no easy money, right? You can't just go on the day a thing opens, short it and get really rich. But in fact, yes, apparently there is actually easy money, and everyone on the CME that shorted that contract sold Bitcoin at the top. You have to understand, Bitcoin spot went to 20,000, but the futures were like 25,000, 26,000. So a lot of people got to sell the future value of Bitcoin at 26,000 and just watch it die. And it was the easiest money in the world for them. They got to sell the top of what apparently is a Ponzi scheme. But next year or 2 years from now, my guess, I think we'll have another year of bears, my guess. We just broke 6K support, which held us for 11 months, which is weird. It was a really weird horizontal line of support. Markets don't tend to do that. You don't tend to usually get 11 months to buy the absolute bottom, and then your kids will never be able to buy that cheap again, the generational bottom, right? So it was a big shift for me to launch an ERC20 token on Ethereum after I said so many terrible things about it, which are still true, and I leave that website up, my Medium article, that's like why Bitcoin's better than Ethereum for most use cases. For my use case.
But have you been able to get up in the morning, like, since February?
No, you spend a lot of time depressed, man. Like, why didn't you sell the top, dude? Like, you know, like, how many Lambos did you lose? And you have to focus. Here's the thing in crypto. No matter what you have done, someone made more money than you faster. I don't care who you are, what you did. Someone 10x'd whatever you did. So you can't beat yourself up about only being like in the top 1% of the most profitable thing ever possibly invented, right? Because some other guy was in the 0.01%. So, and I tell you, I started lighting candles to try and make the pain go away, and like staring into my dog's eyes and like cuddling my dog more and shit. And like, dude, watching your net worth get wrecked is like fucking, it's not great.
Do you think Bitcoin will help you anti-age? Because you've been sort of in the anti-aging movement stuff.
I think that making money is a lot of times more trouble than it's worth. And if you don't eat better places or have better friends or read better books or listen to better music, but it consumes all your time, your life is measurably worse, not better. So what we need in this world like isn't faster F1 cars and isn't actually space travel, unfortunately. We need to stop being rotting sacks of meat. Like, my grandparents are dead. I never did anything to help them, nothing. And they're dead, and they're not coming back. And my parents, they're still alive, but for how long? And then, I'm gonna watch them die too. And I had the ability to fund things that might have given them extra years of healthy life. And thus far I haven't, and that's tragedy. It's gross, and I hope that I'm able to start to do things better than just get money, right? Like, everyone wants to crypto. All right, we're gonna do crypto now. But is crypto the best thing I can be doing with my time? Is it saving my life? Not really. So I'd love for the next thing after crypto, after my token, which is trustless and will do its own thing. I can't change it anyway. So it's uneditable. It's not like there's patches that need to be done. Like, it's over. When that's done, I'd love to move on to a longevity fund. Like, you can buy a green fund that saves the environment and saves your life. You can buy a green fund that saves the environment and still makes you rich. Or you can buy a vice fund that's on weapons and alcohol. And maybe when the economic downturn happens, that one does better. But it ain't saving your life. So if it's the case that you can still get rich and invest in technology that might save you or your family or your loved ones or their offspring, isn't that a better way to do it? I mean, would you trade places with Steve Jobs? He's dead as fuck. He had all the money in the world. Didn't invest in saving his own life. Knew he was going to die of cancer or heart disease, like 8 out of 10 of all of you in the audience will. You're not going to die from a bang. You're going to die from a whimper, the same boring shit that killed everyone else in your family tree. But do you invest in the technology that might save you? Now, I should be dieting, okay? I should have a lot less kilos on me. I should look like Vitalik. I would live longer, okay? It's easier for me to try and convince other people to do the right thing than to do the right thing myself sometimes.
Yeah, because you've been a life coach, isn't that right? You've had you had a period on YouTube where you did a lot of like self-help sort of videos, and I see a lot of people in the crypto space. They're also very interested in this in these ideas of self-development, self-help, self-improvement. What do you think is the link between the crypto crowd and these ideas of like self-development, like anti-aging, cold showers, meditation?
Greed's one.
Greed.
Yeah.
Greed.
Personal power. So,
but meditation and
Bitcoiners
cold
don't meditate.
Showers?
Ethereum users meditate. It's a so Bitcoin people are libertarian, meat-eating, power-hungry at the cost of others. Like, they will take the power for themselves. Ethereum users, for the most part, are soy boy, cuck, friendly,
okay,
nice.
Craig.
Like, it's just true. Like, it's fine. They're both effective lifestyles. They just have different, benefits and such. So, like, the people that eat a lot of meat will have more muscle mass, but they'll die earlier from cardiovascular disease. The people that eat soy will have more estrogen, but they'll live longer for the same reason girls live longer, because they have more estrogen, right? So, like, I'm not saying one of them's better or worse. Personally, I like more muscle mass, so, like, I lift weight. I'd also... The
Bitcoin crowd should be pretty muscular after a while, because, like, the carnivore diet thing,
yeah,
it's really...
It works. I mean, You get
it's quite popular in the Bitcoin space.
yeah. So I think one thing that makes libertarians absolutely love Bitcoin is that they want more strength. They want to use their money how they want to use it without anyone else telling them. And I support that, you know, like I see the value in that. And I also see the value in the cooperation and not being demonized and being able to actually get help from other people, which seems to be bigger in almost every other community. Like the EOS community seems totally friendly. And so after speaking to some of those guys, they said it was because it's all voting based. You can't just stab someone in the back; they won't vote for you. So it's very political. It's very friendly at the front, and it may be friendly in reality because it has to be. But in Bitcoin, I mean, there ain't no reason to be friendly to another miner. Every coin he mines extra is a coin you didn't get, right? So you want people. Everyone in Bitcoin's hiding their algorithms, you know, attacking each other. It's not the most fun. It's fun to be attacking. It's not fun to be attacked.
Before we bring on our third guest, when are you doing an uninterrupted 8-hour YouTube live stream again?
I could do it for the snapshot for Hex. I could do 24 hours, man. I could do it.
Uninterrupted.
No bathroom breaks? Mm-hmm. I could do 12 hours, no bathroom break. I could do 24, but I'm going to have to, like, cheat. I'm going to have to, like, have an apparatus on. So. Like, put a condom, tie it up to, like, a tube, you know?
Why didn't you like revive Color Coin or something like that and build on top of that instead?
So like nobody, sometimes the Bitcoin guys do smart stuff that they don't tell anyone why they did it. So for instance, if I can make a coin, so EOS was an ERC20 token, and they raised several $1 billion to destroy Ethereum. So they raised their money to destroy Ethereum on Ethereum. Bitcoin wasn't cool with that. So they're like, oh, you want to launch other tokens that have value without pumping our Bitcoin bags. So you want to take value from our network to go pump some other bags. And they're like, no, we're going to shut opcodes down. And you want to put metadata in the network? No,
Ethereum came from Bitcoin's Color Coin project.
Yeah, right. So Ethereum had to do Ethereum not on Bitcoin because they wouldn't let him for the same reason that his thing worked.
Anyway, I see we're miserably failing at trying to avoid the crypto topic here, but I think we should get our third guest on stage already. He is a Czech politician. You could call him a Republican too. An activist. In 2015, he founded the self-declared libertarian micronation Free Republic, there you go, of Liberland and became its first president. He has featured in multiple talk shows and interviews all around the world, and now he's here with us in Oslo for the second year in a row. Jedlicka. Welcome.
How's it going?
All right, welcome. Second year in a row. Hope you like it. I got a question, since we were talking about the self-help stuff. Like, which self-help books did you read?
I mean, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, that probably everybody did, like 20 years.
What do you call it? What was it?
Rich Dad, Poor Dad, you know.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
You know, opens your eyes about the cash flow
Dad,
in a
Poor
way.
Dad.
And I think I was
Don't
like
call
50.
that guy anarchist. He'll kick your ass.
No. I mean, but that's something that makes you realize that how you manage your passive income. It's pretty good, right? It's something that you're completely missing in the educational system.
Benjamin Franklin?
Well,
Robert Kiyosaki.
that's a good reading as well. I did it, but only during university.
Yeah, because I was asking about this link between crypto and self-development. And Benjamin Franklin is essentially this, he has an insanely tight schedule and is like planning his day by the minute. And what do you think? Do you think there's, like, what do you think is the connection there between the crypto and these self-help ideas? Kind of.
I think, you know, it's really interesting to, of course, see that let's get back to debate who is Satoshi, right? But where the guy really came from. He was an anarchist. That's apparent. He really was looking into changing the system, and he knew he was doing it at the same time. So I guess he was one of us. You know, he wasn't some Japanese guy. In a sense, he was a Western-style anarchist. I'm actually one of those people that think that it might be actually correct, right? But it is a kind of well, you know. By the way, these yearly blocks have started to move. If you're signed up for this Satoshi coins warning. 2 days ago, there is some movement now as he threatened to fight the Bitcoin Cash. So it is interesting to see, of course, where these guys are coming from, but apparently it is done by us, by the anarchist movement that is pushing this forward. And of course, I believe that they read most of the books from the scene, and they will also probably follow Ron Paul, etc.
Right. How does your day look like? Do you plan like your schedule to the minute, or like how's your morning routine?
Pretty much. I mean, like from where I'm flying directly to Italy, Prague and Italy. That's going to be a big event over there. Pretty great crowd. It's a combination of actually people from architecture that supported us, people from Vatican that support us, different lawyers, and also the cryptocurrency scene over there. So we have a big meeting of government and our supporters in Italy, and then heading directly from there to San Francisco to another crypto event, and then from there to Washington.
So it's different every time, basically.
Yeah.
There's no normal day.
I wish I really had more time to spend with my family and in Liberland, but right now I think I have to work for another 3-4 weeks. Really hard to not tell no to the events that invite me. Such a great event like this one.
You have a very warm presence about you. Like you're always with a smile on your face, and you seem like you're always in a very good mood. So I was curious, what are the things that make you angry, and when, if at all, are you not so pleasant to be around as a person?
I really need to be around with people that are on the same vibe, and sometimes it doesn't happen, and I get a little bit moody when the message doesn't get through. But otherwise, I'm quite easygoing person. I'm trying to always find best.
So I guess
way to get
because
along with people.
We've only met in these crypto settings, so you're in the right in the right crowd.
Definitely.
And if not Liberland, what would you be doing, you think?
To be honest, I've been actually working on this for quite some time without even realizing it. I've been I really wanted to change the society for better for, let's say, last 25 years. And I was looking always into most efficient ways. We started a YouTube channel with 20 million views. But that didn't really change much. I was thinking that maybe if there is 10 million people in Czech Republic and 20 million people see the Czech YouTube channel about economic freedom, and I found out we are even unable to turn that interest of people into real votes at the same time. So I just figured out that we have to stop talking about stuff, we have to start doing it. And it's kind of cool that there is still not much competition in this space. I'm happy that we have inspired a couple of kind of startup countries. But we're still, kind of alone out there, claiming a piece of land and declaring sovereignty.
So if not president of Liberland, you would be president of another micronation?
Well, we are not micronation, first of all. It's 500,000 people. It's not micro anymore. And very likely, I mean, I'll probably be more in crypto now. If Liberland itself didn't happen, I would be fully engaged with that. But I'm now really at this situation, I'm trying to combine the world of governance on crypto with the physical territory and do the right, be a little bit conservative, don't be the first mover somewhere, but try to implement whatever is best out there.
Startup country sounds really funny, the term. What do you do? I'm in startups. What do you do? Countries.
It's like the floating nations. Have you seen these?
Yeah, seasteading, yeah.
They're not country, by the way, and they don't declare sovereignty, right? They say that they have MOU with some existing country, but it's a different project. Like there are not too many sovereign entities now. Even Catalonia is kind of afraid to go full declaring sovereignty now. There are a couple of other interesting places like Kurdistan, which is, I think, doing quite well. Another place in Syria, kind of left anarchist society. Somaliland, which is making it on their own, but they're quite stable. They're just till the rest of the world forgot to recognize them. But
if you don't have it, I think if you don't have any resources, it's very easy to be sovereign. Like look at North Korea. Nobody wants to go over there and take that away.
Wow. We wanted those nukes pretty bad.
You mean the firecrackers taped to a goat?
I bet Kim Jong-il's chef's pretty good too. I wouldn't mind getting in on that.
Anyway, I think we will be bringing on our last guest for tonight. This guy, He's already been on stage like Alvin, but I do the introduction. He's been interested in coding and space advancement from a very young age. He learned Visual Basic at age 12, and by 16 years old, he was already designing rockets with his father. Now, at age 27, he is a hardware and software expert, inventor, composer, musician, philanthropist, and entrepreneur determined to bring positive change to the world through his creation of Nexus. Colin Cantrell, please give a warm hand.
You left out leader of a hippie project in Bisbee.
You can sit on my lap, but he's moving towards the instruments, I would bet. Oh, no, he's going to get his own chair.
All right, welcome on stage.
I love your necklace,
I was
by the
saying,
way. Looks good.
Colin,
Thanks.
I like geometric patterns. I made a book that I'm hoping turns into a belief system called SciVive, and it's free. You can kind of download it. It's not finished. But if you like a rough outline of stuff before it's a book, it's surprisingly hard to find geometry that's not already taken by a religion. So the plus sign's taken, crescent's taken, stars are taken. So I ended up with what's called the Trinity Shield, which is like a triangle with 3 circles. I was lucky to find any geometry at all. So I see a lot of your tattoos and your jewelry is it's of that genre.
Yeah, slightly different, kind of some of my own, but yeah, geometry is pretty interesting, especially when it's not polluted. Yeah.
It's funny how like Hitler took the swastika from the Indians,
This is a sign of
like the
peace.
original Indians.
Yep,
yeah,
yep.
and
Flip
they got
it
screwed
around.
over on it. Like can't use it anymore.
Yeah.
He ruined a lot of stuff. He ruined the name Adolf. Like you just can't be called Adolf anymore. He ruined the Charlie Chaplin mustache.
I know, right?
Bad guy.
Tell me this. I want to hear this story. Your dad told us part of a story about you being in a hippie commune down in Bisbee, Arizona, and something about you needing money for dental work, and he took Bitcoin from you and ended up making $2 million.
Something like that, yeah. I mean, I was living down in Bisbee. This was 2013, kind of when I first got into cryptocurrency. So back at the time, I'd been doing a lot of different research with hydrogen energy, things like that. So I had these ideas of, creating self-sufficient communities. And I mean, eventually, like what you guys are doing in Liberland, eventually declaring and being able to create our own country. But, when it really comes down to that, you come down to fundamental common law of, okay, who's got the bigger guns? And so I just started by taking a few people into my house and saying, hey, I'll feed you, kind of homeless people off the streets. And then I started thinking, well, this is a good opportunity to say, if I put money in, a community fund, how are people going to act, and to just sit and observe. So, I guess it was an interesting experience and a social experiment at the same time to see what happens.
So Colin was president before you.
what were you doing with hydrogen? Were you doing like LENR or?
No, so it was creating orthohydrogen through some form of resonance. So it was
What's
based on
orthohydrogen?
Ortho is where you have the actual spin of the hydrogen, because hydrogen is a diatonic molecule, which means it bonds to itself. So you have parahydrogen, where they're actually spinning in the same direction, and orthohydrogen, where they're spinning in opposite directions. Okay. So orthohydrogen just has a higher combustible rate. It's the more preferable form of hydrogen that you want to get when you're doing conventional electrolysis.
I didn't know that there was like chirality in atoms. That's neat.
There's a lot of really cool stuff, yeah.
Anyway, I wish I understood what you guys were talking about. I have no idea.
You don't get it? Come on.
Colin, you're expanding into space, let's say. Did you ever think about any like country stuff? Like, have you gotten any inspiration from Liberland?
Yeah, like I said, I looked at starting a country back way then, and I kind of saw there's 2 options. One, you find a corrupt government and you buy land from them, but then there's really no guarantee. And the other one is you have bigger guns. So, as far as I saw it as kind of a longer-term project. In order to make it something sustainable, it's going to be very difficult. And there's maybe an economic method you could do as far as, let's say being engaged in cryptocurrencies. You can build a bit of an economic system that they rely on, and then you just have to have some sort of leverage until I guess you can call it the collective consciousness matures enough to stop fighting over silly things.
You have a coup. You just have a coup over a smaller place and then
you could
adopt
do a
their
coup.
guns. Like,
Yeah, but I mean,
fork it?
that's what Donald Trump did, right? Like,
yeah, similar.
no one expected him to win, but he did, and whatever he did worked. So you could just be the next Donald Trump, I guess. Right?
Yeah, but when you seek to do something and you build the foundations on the same type of coercion that we've already been put into it, that type of power has a way of evaporating very quickly. So
on the other hand, also, like, how much chances to change something he really had? I mean, like, he probably wanted to change some stuff about the foreign policy, and they simply explained him that's no go. I know, and I think whenever he had meetings with the Secret Service, they explained him more and more that that's no go, that's where we're going. But anyway, I had a really funny meeting with some oligarchs recently from Russia that paid like enormous amount of money to some African country for some reef. And it was like, yeah, we signed an MOU with them, and when I met with them for the second time, yeah, we signed MOU, we paid them money, and then they told us it's not their signature. Yeah. And that was the end of the story. And it's like,
they'll usually take your money, and then, it really comes down to who has the bigger guns, and that's why, it's a very difficult feat in order to pull off. I mean, the best thing I thought is, why don't we just make floating cities? Then, you're out in the middle of the ocean, nobody really cares, but...
They would if you became successful. They would try and execute the rule on you anyway.
So when you really look at the fundamental problem, it's not necessarily the fact that there's countries and borders and you can solve it by doing the same thing, but it really fundamentally comes down to what people are willing to support and what people see as something. And right now, people still want dictators. It's unfortunate, but as soon as a government destabilizes, another person comes in to create order, and that's what creates the dictatorships. Now, until the public is willing to accept or set the bar of what they're willing to accept, that's when we're going to see the change. And any of the illusions of borders or anything else isn't going to change that.
I might misunderstand your guys' motives. So, like, I know that I can turn my music up really loud, but then it'll piss people off at some point, right? Like, eventually it'll get so loud that you'll encroach on someone else's rights. It's like, what is it exactly that you don't like about the current system that you're just dying to do in your own thing? Like, play your music louder? Like, I don't know what your
I don't know what we're talking about is like 250,000 of regulations, and you don't even realize how much crap is out there. And I didn't use that example, but it's according to EU, it's 3.5% a year, the regulations that they have put in place. They basically destroy the half of the country, of the whole continent's growth every 20 years. It's enormous destruction which we don't see, which is continuous through overregulation. And of course, the overtaxation is another 3-4.5%, because the healthy growth of a society is not 0.1, 0.2% like we see in Europe. It's 10, 12%, right?
If you're having kids, if you stop having kids, that number gets wrecked. You need new humans to generate more GDP. No,
it's a complete economic nonsense.
What?
It is. It doesn't have to do anything with that is not really reliant. Like, of course, the most economic growth actually comes from technology right now. And we are so lucky that with all this regulation and all this crazy stuff, we have such a huge technology boom that, like, if we didn't have the technology boom, we would basically regulate ourselves and tax ourselves to death. But since there is this huge technology boom that's kind of saved us from starving to death, because the technology is providing us an extra added value that makes everything work.
But most of that tech sucks, right? So, like, Rate My Sandwich apps are worth billions of dollars, and yet they don't make the human condition any better. So I think you may be confusing economic GDP growth for actual growth as a culture, right? So, like, actual growth would be less school shootings, or less wars, or less existential risks from nuclear annihilation, or preventing asteroids from making us extinct by investing more in identifying them and retargeting them before they wipe us the fuck out, like the dinosaurs. Like, that's actual growth, right? Like, some numbers on an accounting ledger, like, the S&P 500 went up 5%. That's not fucking growth, right?
We were talking earlier, Richard, about game theory, right? And the incentive you're doing with incentivizing people to hold, and you game them because you make it more profitable for them to do something that's better. It's the fundamental underlying problem of the system is designed to get people to screw each other over. Well, and when you can start to change that narrative, then you start creating incentive for such things. But right now, it's not profitable to stop humanity from being annihilated or to clean up our oceans.
It's tragedy of the commons. Like,
yeah, it's a form of tragedy of the commons, but it's just a bad game theory. The system's game theory is designed to create people that screw each other over rather than people that help each other. And when you have more of the people helping each other, we'll start thinking about the bigger pictures.
Well, when you opt out of a society, you're no longer helping the people there. You're telling them to fuck themselves, and I'll only help you if you come to my new product. I'm taking my ball and I'm going home with it, and if you want to come play ball again, you have to come over to my new place where we don't have any good restaurants and we don't have any fucking cool songs or cool sports teams, and like mostly everything sucks. And I hope you like loud music, man, because we're definitely blasting our shit, because that's the reason we did all this. Like, there's huge downsides to refactoring your code from scratch, and you don't realize that until you're halfway in. You're like, I'll never finish. You just give up. That's like, there's so many abandoned projects. Like,
Yeah,
you're not the
and-
first guys to try and go for like, yeah, I'm gonna do my own thing and make it better. Like, I'd rather get fucked over. Like, I don't like a lot of these laws, but if it means I eat better, like steak, I'll eat the better steak and have the shittier laws. Like, I like food. Like, it's a good deal for me. Like,
And that makes sense, but some of us think, in different ways. I mean, I never said opt out of society. What I see is that we need to model society to be different. And it comes down to Buckminster Fuller. You say you don't change the system by fighting the existing reality. You change it by creating a new model that makes a new old model obsolete. And that's precisely
I think you do it with marketing, dude. I think if you market good ideas, you can change user behavior, you can change humanity.
That's part of it.
Make a new belief system.
But
and
the marketing
get it
has to have a
successful.
model to market, and we're talking about the fundamental qualities of the model. not
Anyway,
the
so
market.
speaking of these quite deep philosophical issues, I was curious about like you. How did you get into crypto to begin with? We were discussing a theory that a lot of people get in because of greed first, and then they discover all these deeper philosophical issues. Like, what was your way into crypto at the very beginning?
Well, when I heard about it, I knew about all the problems we had in the world with as far as monetary systems. I'd done a lot of work with kind of replicating some of Tesla's technology, working with alternative energies. And the fundamental problem I kept coming back to was the economic problem, where in Nikola Tesla, let's say, he developed something called Wardenclyffe Tower. And it eventually got destroyed when it actually had capabilities to have significant amount of communication channels through wireless. He actually found that at certain voltages and frequencies, the atmosphere would conduct the electricity. Now, he was funded by JP Morgan Chase, and that's the reason that they destroyed it, because you couldn't meter it. So from kind of my pursuit of these things, of looking at the world and saying, well, what is it that I can do to help it, the blockchain and the economic factor of it seemed like the best solution, the missing piece, I guess you could say, to all these other troves of projects. So it was never something that was greed for me. If it was greed, I could have just made a shitcoin and launched it, but I've spent an incredible amount of time to develop new technology and innovate it. And, it takes time. And so the philosophy and the underlying possibilities of what we can really do for the world is the type of thing that I guess has always driven me and continues to drive me to this day.
Is this the same with your father? You say, I read that, and as I said, you were building rockets with your father at 16 or 17.
I was working with John Garvey, developing what was the Prospector 2, I believe, back then, which that company was absorbed by Vector, which now they are using that as their model for their Vector R and Vector H launch vehicles. But I did that as an internship when I was 16, because I was getting a little bit of trouble, and my dad said, you're going to go do this internship, I got to go and work. And I was a little bit pissed at the time, but it ended up being really good and made a lot of connections, and it's kind of cool to see the full circle come back where I end up working with these guys again.
All right. Also, you have some knowledge about quantum physics.
Yep.
This is a word that is, we were talking about self-help earlier, especially in this new age sort of self-help movement. This word is used a lot these days. What's your view on how that term is used?
Well, that's a very broad question. But I think one of the cool things about quantum physics is it starts to completely break all of the models that we've had before, where we had this whole model of relativity and mechanics, and now we have the uncertainty principle, where we're seeing quantum tunneling happening, where electrons literally jump from one side to another, or that our observation actually affects the reality of it. And that's really important to start to understanding consciousness more, and I think that's really a fundamental reason that we're starting to bring that out is science has always said, well, we can't prove consciousness, we can't see this, and now we're starting to see how consciousness is proving science, and it's changing that, and that everything we believe to be is based on our observations of it. And because of that, it's always changing, which means that some of these fundamental philosophies that have lived for thousands of years that some people in science have come to say are not true have actually been able to start to be proven true, and we're starting to be finding more and more facts that are leading to understanding these mystical properties of life, the superstitions or consciousness or anything else like that. So I see that it's really good that we're starting to explore that, and that science is catching up to what's already existed.
I disagree with almost all of that.
Subjective or objective reality?
So first of all, we are able to know more about reality by things that we haven't observed. So for instance, the Higgs boson particle was something that we calculated should exist because we saw things existed, and then if the inverse of some of those things existed, then we should have something that has those properties. And we said, oh, well, let's try and see if we can find that should exist because we've never seen it before. So like literally our search for the Higgs boson subatomic particle is a result of inverting what we saw and looking for what we didn't see, what we thought might exist. So we know about reality by things that we haven't seen, but think that they should. What happens to a lot of people is they look for tricks to understand their world better, and they turn to fanciful woo-woo bullshit that doesn't work at the cost of doing things which have been proven to work for thousands of years. So if you want your mind to work better, you don't need to understand the weirdness of a very small realm which you will never live in, okay? You will never live in the subatomic realm. You will also never have to turn your spaceship left at Mars. So you don't actually need to know about the solar system. You don't actually need to know about subatomic particles to be an effective human being. You'd be better off spending your time learning how to memorize things by using something like the internal mind map, where you create a little city or a little house inside your head and you peg things to it, right? That uses movement and color and sexuality to get your brain to care about it, to make it hit, right? Or just write things down, or just use Google better, right? So if you go in my book, there's a thing called Google Foo, where you can use Google, the most powerful tool anyone's ever had, to find knowledge that other people that have access to Google just can't. All that shit's better than saying, oh, the explanation for what I want to say is that, like, it's the resonance, man. And that's how most people use these buzzwords, these suitcase words, which have no application to what they're talking about. They talk to magnetism or resonance or fucking crystals, or now the new one is the subatomic shit, and it's appeal to complexity. It's like, yo, what I'm saying doesn't make any sense, but it's okay because it's true, because this other shit doesn't make any sense either, but science talks about it, so quantum.
Do you think too many people talk about this without really understanding it? There's a saying that if you think you understand quantum physics, you don't understand quantum physics or something?
I mean, I think a lot of people are speculating on it, and I think that's good because it's helping people start to think for themselves and understand the reality that they're living in.
And question the deepest.
And question it, yeah. And that's the fundamental quality, I think, of quantum physics, that, you know, the more you question or the more you project an idea of something, the more you're going to start to see that materialize, just like the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. So it's, as long as it's getting people thinking and thinking more about things like this rather than, you know, what are the Kardashians doing tomorrow? I think that's positive steps for humanity in a whole. Whether or not people are right or wrong, they're at least moving forward and figuring those things out.
I do agree with hooking people on to better patterns of thought. I do agree with
and
popularizing science.
I mean, you have to look at the innovation or the expenditure, the way things evolve. It's not always going to be right. It's actually eternally going to be wrong because there's always more to discover. So, you know, at least people are taking those steps forward and starting to understand the world that's around them. And from that, they can understand how to navigate it and make better decisions, and that's called evolving.
Technically, that would be the world inside them, I think. But
yeah, exactly. One thing we agree on, I guess.
Of course, it's become like an esoteric buzzword, like blockchain has become, right, lately. But I think it was a very interesting article like 2 weeks ago about the neurons emitting photons, if you read that one. And also this connection to the fact that the photons are paired in the space and they can actually transform the information faster than light because of this pairing. And it's very interesting, right, that the consciousness could actually be coming from a completely different part of the space or from non-space place, paired through photons, which we have discovered literally like a month ago, that the whole brain is working on photons, which was an unknown thing.
I'm still pretty sure you can't transmit information faster than light. They're screwing around with experiments and such.
You're not moving it through light. You're creating entanglement. So when you have,
I know how entanglement works. I get it. I know the strangeness of distant particles, but I'm pretty sure you still can't transmit information through it. Reference Wikipedia, homies. I'm not a part of the physicist.
They're not there yet, but China actually did what's called quantum key distribution, which they actually did transmit it through a laser beam.
You can transmit, but it's not faster than the speed of light. Like, I believe that I don't know, man. You're talking about the total edge of a thing and making a very strong claim and not presenting with it very strong evidence. Okay. So my default weak-ass rebuttal should count because the claim is so strong. But Wikipedia's got a better rebuttal than me. Like, information theory, I think, would cover it.
All right, I think we'll end it there on a very, very high note, philosophically. Objective versus subjective reality. That's crypto in a nutshell. Guys, thank you so much for coming to Oslo. It's been an honor to have you here at CryptoFinance.
Thank you, guys.